Fortune favors the prepared, and while we can't control every situation we may come up against, we can prepare and take as many tools with us as possible. And for many in the EDC community at least, that begins with something like this. A multi-tool that you can put in your pocket or on your keychain, carry every day, and just forget about until you need it. And when you need it, you'll be glad you have it. This is my review of the Squirt PS4 by Leatherman. Here's the Squirt PS4 next to some other popular multi-tools. For dime, probably its closest competitor in size. The Leatherman Wingman, just a slight upgrade in cost, also by Leatherman, but a much larger form factor, of course. The Leatherman Juice S2, and from a previous video, the Ozark Trail multi-tool. So, there it is closer to the Leatherman Juice S2. Here's the Juice blade out around some other common EDC items. Your F701 Zebra Pen, Spyderco Endura 4, Benchmade Griptilian, and a 9mm round. Absolute sizing. The blade on the Squirt is about 1.5 inches of sharpened blade length. The body length is just shy of 2¼ inches long by approximately 13/16 wide, if you include the tools jutting out of the scales slightly, by right at 1/2 inch thick. For comparison, it is about as wide as a dime is, and it is similarly thick to, say, your AA battery, or a little bit more than your AAA battery. Leatherman actually fits quite a few tools into the Squirt for no larger than it is, beginning with the blade, which, as I said before, is about 1.5 inches of cutting blade. It is a chisel ground, only ground on one side, clip point knife. It's not really all that much in terms of a cutting tool. I don't find myself using this blade all that often when I carried the Squirt. On the same side with the blade, you have your scissors. Surprisingly good scissors for the size factor. They will cut paper, and they can be used to cut your drinking straw, although it's maybe a little bit harder than with the dime. You got to start it again and then clip it off. Pretty clean cut. Good spring tension, you can't overdo it. And in a pinch, you could use this blade as something of a reamer or an awl. Wouldn't be perfect, but doable. Flipping it over, you get a file. And if you want to carry a file on a keychain multi-tool, this is probably your best bet. You have a standard file surface there, and then a crosshatch on this side. This is a decently gritty file, and it does have the file pattern on this side, so you can use this for notching or grooving. And you can also use this as a very long shanked flat driver. Although this does come with another flat driver, and this is where I think you got to ding this tool a little bit. Everything is accessed from these nail nicks, and this one has a nice cutout on the scales to access, as does the knife blade. The scissors have a little bit of a cutout on the frame to get to that nail nick, but look at the drivers. The frame continues on, the driver's nail nicks are not easily accessible. And while this one can be accessed decently easily, the other side here, it's sometimes difficult to get a fingernail in there. The drivers do have good detent though once they're out. You can use them at this angle if you'd like to, or you can let them click into place. So on this side we have the flathead driver, which comes to a nice little tip. Very thin, so very good for your thinner standard bits. You also have your bottle opener on this side. On this side here you have a more tapered fine tip, which I'll set it down and hopefully get a better focus on it. Driver, flat Phillips driver, or very small flathead. As with something like the dime, it works for small toy screws. Closing these back up. On the inside, you get your Leatherman pliers. The pliers come to a precise tip, but you can see there's a little bit of a gap just past the tip. So they don't have a lot of grip surface that actually comes into full contact. But then you have a bit of a rounded section for gripping nuts. And then you've got some wire cutters built in. These wire cutters you could easily overdo. They're not that thick. But for the form factor, not bad. Not a bad little size. You could use this for pulling up staples, grasping little nail heads, and whatnot. I wouldn't push these to too big of a task because they're not really built for that. And that's basically all their tools there are to it. There is a lanyard ring, if you want to count that as a tool, which if you remove this little ring portion, you could roll this in beside the knife blade, which may or may not be a positive thing. If you were to remove this, this could disappear. And it would probably add a little bit more tension holding the knife blade in place and make it that much harder to draw. And if it's turned like this, you can catch your knife blade on the ring like I just did. So if that happens, you just want to roll this out and then no problem. Rating the Squirt here, I'm going to say on utility, I would give this a 4, which is average. The utility of certain tools is going to be more useful than others. I find that I would use the scissors a lot. You can use the blade as a package opener or for other cutting tasks. The other tools you might be using on this a lot are the drivers. I personally, as good as this file is, as files go, I find when I need a file, I tend to be working in an area with a lot of other tools, and it's usually easier for me to grab a full-size file than to make do with something like this. If in your case you feel you need to do some notching, this is a good file for it. But overall, I'm just going to give this a 4 in utility. I'm going to give the Squirt PS4 an awesomeness of 4, which is average. The tool does wear a little bit. You can see here it picked up a little bit of pocket wear right around that, right here around this pivot. And there's a little bit of a scratch right there. That's from just shy of a month of pocket carry. So this does scratch up a little bit, but it holds up better than something like your Gerber dime. And it feels more professionally done. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Leatherman scales feel a little bit more professional. The cost on the Squirt, you are getting a Leatherman product, but you're paying for it. This costs $32.50 right now on Amazon, which puts it in my 6. Great cost rating for a multi-tool. On the weight, this is a great multi-tool to throw on a keychain because this thing weighs in at 1.98 ounces. Under 2 ounces to add all those tools into your carry. So at under 2 ounces, this is a 7 in the weight category for multi-tools. The knife here is a long enough knife to get you into trouble with the TSA, which is going to give this a legality of 6. And lastly, ergonomics. So the main tools that you're going to look at, one ergonomic benefit is that the blade does cutting edge along the bottom, so you can actually hold it more like this when you're cutting, which is nice. You could put a thumb here if you want to cut with this portion of the blade, which is pretty nice. On the actual pliers, this is smoother, more comfortable in your hand. The click of them is pretty good. And then on your scissors, the other clicking tool, this gives you a nice smooth surface to put your thumb on for cutting, and so you can cut longer with this. So ergonomics on this thing, I'm actually going to give a 5. So value on the Squirt is utility times awesomeness over 9 minus cost, which is 4 times 4 over 9 minus 6, which comes out to 16 over 3, or 5.33 repeating value on the Leatherman Squirt PS4. A utility score of 4 or fair, an awesomeness score of 4 or fair, a cost of 6 or great from MultiTool at around $32 and some change, a weight score of 7 or excellent at around 2 ounces, an ergonomics score of 5 or good, and a legality score of 6 or great. The Leatherman Squirt PS4 is one of those examples of good things coming in small packages. And it's also an example of Leatherman's quality craftsmanship. You do pay a premium for that, for the size, but the end result is pretty nice. Reasons to buy a Squirt PS4. If you're looking to add a multi-tool to your EDC, this is the direction a lot of people will point you. It comes with a tool set that is very lightweight for what you get, and a great file on a keychain multi-tool. Plus you get that Leatherman quality, attention to detail, and ergonomics. Reasons to not buy the Squirt include that the drivers are tough to access. If you already carry a multi-tool, you're not going to be adding a lot of utility adding a Squirt. And if you want to spend just a bit more money, you can maybe get a multi-tool with greater utility if you're okay with something a little bit larger. If you don't already carry a multi-tool, and if you're not crazy about this blue color, it also comes in black and red. If you're looking to add a multi-tool to your everyday carry, this multi-tool at under 40 bucks and under 2 ounces in weight is a really nice way to go. Until next time, class dismissed.